Yeah, so my name is Maura. I am the Director of Academics at YEF in Oxford. I'm sure you know about YEF, but just to give you some context about the school where I work, it's all year round school, so we operate throughout the year, although we have also a summer school. And we host, we actually welcome students from all over the world. So each week we have up to 30, 40 different nationalities. And so it's a really lively and stimulating place to work in. All our students are over 16. So obviously I know that you all come from different teaching backgrounds. But yeah, this is the context where I work. When I was so thank you already for putting down your name. I see quite a few from Italy. Yeah, when I was thinking about a topic for this webinar, I looked at the context where I work, and I asked myself, okay, what would my teachers find useful? What would they benefit from? I currently manage a team of about 35 teachers, which grows in the summer. And through observations, whether formal observations or yeah, drop-ins, I kind of realized that quite often there's something missing. There's not enough evidencing learning in the classroom, and that this is maybe an area to work on, because I can see a lot of planning. I can see that there's great effort in preparing the lesson and making sure that there is the language point to teach, and that there is a lot going on. But when you are in the classroom, you realize that this learning is not so apparent, is not so obvious. That's why I decided to look at this specific topic with you. So let's start with the question for you. Oh, no, sorry. First of all, we're going to look at the objective for this session. So we're going to understand what visible learning is based on Hatti's work from 2009. And then throughout the webinar, I will give you some practical ideas on how to specifically check learning, showcase achievement, also provide feedback to our students. And then we're gonna wrap up and look at some takeaways. Hopefully there'll be some time for questions and answer in case I don't manage to pick up all your questions here. So yeah, my first question to you is, what is visible learning? What do you think it is? Feel free to put an answer on the chat. In the meantime, I'm going to give you my email address. Not to everyone, sorry. Evidence from themselves. Yes, something that is measurable. Absolutely, Anna. So something that is, as the word says, is visible, something that we can see. I'm going to give you, yes, result of learning, the proof of what we see. I'm going to give you the definition that Hatt is giving in his work. And it says, learning becomes visible when teachers see learning through the eyes of students, and students see themselves as their own teacher. So there's a mutual thing happening here. So on one side, from the teacher's perspective, there is something that the teachers need to be aware of, or what the focus of the lesson is. So, okay, so what are the things they can look at in order to then make sure that the learning is visible. So what are the things to measure? But on the other side, at the same time, there is something that the students experience. So making sure that the students are clear on what the teaching is, and therefore they can draw the conclusion for their learning. So what is it that the teacher is teaching? So what is it that I'm learning? Yeah, just to make them aware. Yeah, so when students masters what they were exposed to and become their own teachers. Of course, because we want them to be independent. The learning doesn't just happen in the classroom. It's a process that they should be able to carry on after, let's say, after the lesson. Okay, so being able to do it at home as well. So there are 5 key areas that are identified by Hattis. There are different areas where teachers can act on, and I've listed them here. So the first one is to set clear learning objectives, check progress and learning, provide meaningful and constructive feedback, encourage self-assessment, and showcase success. I'm going to touch on all of these areas throughout the webinar, but with specific attention to checking learning and progress, because I think this is this I found particularly interesting. Is very important part of what happens in the classroom. So yes, so throughout the webinar, I'm going to try and give you also some practical ideas on how to do that in the classroom. So how can we make learning visible to students? As I said, the first point is to set clear learning objectives. So basically, what are they learning? Okay, so we need to make it obvious to the students. Sometimes I observe some amazing lessons with my teachers, but is it really obvious what the teacher wants out of that lesson from the students? So I think it's very important how we phrase these learning objectives, how they are literally put on the board and how they are phrased for the students. So I'm going to give you some examples here of learning objectives, and I would like you to put in the chat if you think that they are well written or not. Okay. So first one, to use the simple past. What do you think? Just put in the chat with a yes or no. Is it well written? No. Okay. Thank you, Gabby. Yeah, no. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go to the next one. We're gonna kind of focus on the kind of general overview after at the end of the slide. Okay, next one. To use at least 10 new adjectives to describe people in both written and spoken form. Is it well written or not? Any ideas? Just think about, yes, it can help more or less better. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see many yes, I can see a better. Based on, yes, just based in your judgment, try and think about how I have phrased the kind of aim of the learning objective, what they are practicing and why. Okay. Next one. After reading a short opinion article, students will be able to identify the author's point of view and provide one piece of evidence from the text to support their answer. What do you think? Yes. It's a bit more complex, a bit more wordy than the other one. Yeah. So clearly there's a lot more going on here on what the expectations are rather than something as like concise as to use the simple past. Just think, are you clear on what they're practicing and why? Yeah, you will be able to, and I'm going to show that in a minute. To read a scientific report. If I'm a student and I know that my aim is to read a scientific report, is that enough to for me to know what I'm learning today? No. Yes, exactly. Read for what? Yeah. So that could be better. To use adjectives and noun collocations. What do you think? Is that so? We are saying what they're learning, but we're not really saying why. Yeah, what for again? To distinguish between formal and informal expressions after listening to two phone conversations. We are listening, and the aim is to being able to differentiate between formal and informal. So it's an interesting activity to understand the distinction. Yes. Context for using that, definitely that could be more kind of concise in terms of which context. Yeah. Got a few more. To write 100-word email inviting a friend to an event using appropriate tone and format. So we're saying what they're going to do. They're going to write an email 100 words long, and we're saying why, what that's for. Of course, it depends on the level. Of course, depending on the level, we need to be more or less specific. To ask and answer questions about daily routine using the present simple tense with minimal errors. That's a bit vague. Let's say we are, yeah, it gives a bit more details. That minimal errors is kind of, yeah, vague, but we know the context is about daily routine, and we all know that they're going to ask and answer questions. So probably the language point would be a grammar point. Finally, to practice relative clauses, what do you think? Is this well written or not? Well, based on what we have not completed, yes. So yeah, okay. So we have, I've summarized this on kind of a way to frame it. As someone suggested in the chat as well, by the end of the lesson, you will be better able to. It's a nice way to frame it. For example, to use the present perfect tense to talk about life experiences, or to write a 100-word travel blog using adjectives and noun collocations. So what we're doing here is really we're telling them what is the language point that they're learning, for example, the present perfect or adjective noun connotation. But why are they learning this? How is this going to help them in their real life? I think this is it's a key part of the phrasing learning objectives, because if you imagine asking a proficient speaker, someone who has learned English from birth, so they've not necessarily learned the grammar in the way second language learner does, they probably won't even know what simple past is. So if you ask, again, let's say a native speaker, a person who speaks English as a first language, say, can you use the simple past? They will probably not even know what it is, or they might, but not sure what the usefulness is. But if you ask them, can you talk about what you did yesterday or what you did last week, then they will surely be able to say yes. And this is the whole point, is just making explicit what the language is, but why are you learning it? Because if students don't understand why, how that is going to be helpful for them, that's also going to affect their motivation and understand what they're really investing their time in. Yeah, why am I here? So still within the making learning visible to students. The second point that I'm going to highlight is checking progress and learning. Checking progress and learning happens through very different ways that I'm sure you do every day in the classroom. You probably adopt several strategies, and hopefully this will help you as a reminder or as a way to kind of refresh different tools that we have. So I'm going to show you two different statements, and I would like you to tell me which one you agree with. The first one says, teachers should only check learning at the end of the lesson during the productive task, because it's when all the input comes together. And the second one, checking learning is a process that happens throughout the lesson at different stages and using different strategies. So there we go, the two sentences. Could you pop in the chat? Do you agree with A or do you agree with B? Yeah, I can see a majority of B, and that's what I was hoping for. So yes, the second one is a more real statement. I must say, I'm not discarding productive stages. It's very important to include a productive stage at the end of the lesson, because it's where everything, as I said, comes together. Everything it's really it's a checkpoint for you to actually say, okay, was my teaching effective? I've done a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Let's see how the students can now use it. So this is a very key stage of your lesson. However, it's not going to be the focus of this webinar. So I'm not going to talk about productive, more specifically productive stages. But yes, so think about practical strategies used in the classroom to check your students. Sorry, to check your teaching. So to check the effectiveness of your teaching, how good it's been so far. What do you do to check if the students are learning? If you could just write in the chat, how do you check that? Yes, Alex, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of focus on grammar. Ask questions. Nala, yes. Written or oral task. Yeah, this could be as a final productive task. Assessment. Try and be more specific, Natalie. How do you assess them? As in tests or other informal tests? CCQs. Yes, quiz on code. Short activities. If they're following me, yes. If they, you can see if they still have their attention, ask questions. Yeah, so there's lots of strategies, but let's face it, we are all guilty of asking this question. Do you understand? I've asked this question many times and then almost bit my tongue thinking it's not the right question to ask, because what does that even mean? If a student isn't sure, probably they are shy or not able to actually express how they're feeling about it. And especially when in a big group, it can be difficult to voice some thoughts and doubts. So it's our job as teachers to check that they're learning and to check that rather than asking them, do you understand the meaning of this word? Try other ways to know rather than to ask if they understood. Exit cards, yes, exercise about the class. So I'm going to touch on some of these. Yes, some really, really nice said yes in the chat, I can see. Um, so one of the first thing that's been mentioned, concept checking questions. They're useful for grammar, for vocabulary, but also for other concepts, like for intonation, asking if, I mean, for formal, informal language. So it's all a great tool in our hands that we can use. So I'm gonna show you some sentences, and I would like you to write in the chat a concept checking question that you would ask your students to clarify the meaning of the word that is in bold. Okay. Sorry, I should have made this more obvious. I hope you can see it, but the sentence says she was frantic when she couldn't find her passport at the airport. So the word that you want to check is frantic. What CCQ would you ask? Is it negative or positive? Yes, absolutely. And the answer would be negative. Yeah. Was it good for her? So again, in the feeling for the arrow about feelings and how good it is. As for synonym, yes. How did she feel? Did she find it? Okay. Well, we don't really know the answer to this question. We don't know if she found the passport or not. We just know that she looked frantic. She was nervous. Yes, very nervous. How will you feel? Yeah. How did she feel? So asking for synonyms. What was her face like? I love it. So miming. Yes, that's great. Asking them to actually act frantic. But yeah, there's a lot to do in the context. We can ask, was she moving slowly? Was she moving quickly? Is it a good or bad feeling? Did she look relaxed or did she look worried? So all your ideas are great. Next one, he was arrested for selling illegal copies of movies. So the word is illegal. Is that the one that you want to check? What questions would you ask? What was not correct? Yes. Yeah. What was um yeah, what was not right to do? Yeah. Um, were you allowed to sell them? Yes. Were they allowed? Was this person allowed to sell copies? Absolutely not. What happens to people that do something illegal? Yes, it's a good one. Or yes, if you steal, are you doing something illegal? Yes, give us for examples of something illegal. Um, or even there, is it allowed by law? So all these ideas are valid. The city is working on new roads to reduce congestion during rush hour. Any ideas? What would you ask in this case? Congestion. Think about what you see. What happens in rush hour? Yes. Are there many? What are they actually doing? Not sure if this is for the previous one. Will it be easier to drive later? Definitely. Um, what is there on the road during rush hours? Yes, there's many cars. Or are there many cars if there's congestion? Or are the roads empty? Can you be late if there's congestion? Can you be late for work, for an appointment? And yes, all the kind of is it a good thing if there's congestion while you need to be somewhere? So yes, all this. I should have listened to her. So it's more the verb should have. What would you ask to check if they understand? Yeah, it's traffic blocked for the previous one. I should have listened to her. Is it about now or the past? Lovely. So we are asking, students might see have, might think it relates to the present, but it's about the past. How does she feel now? Did he listen to her? No. If I say I should have listened to her, I did not listen to her. Am I regretting it? Am I, yes, probably. Does it show annoyance or like, yeah, indeed regret? Um, and how is the person feeling? Is it a good feeling? Is it a bad feeling? Can I change it? No, we can't change it. Okay, well, this question is, sorry, this sentence is out of context. Maybe if I give you some context, imagine she gave me good advice, I didn't listen to her, and now I'm in trouble. Or she told me I should have arrived earlier for the train, but I slept, overslept, and now I've missed my train. So I should have listened to her. So it really conveys an idea of annoyance and regret. But you're right, I should have put this in a better context. This site is this site used to be a meeting point for many merchants. Again, is this about the past, about the present, or about the future? Of course, it's about the past. Did they have a routine? Did merchants have a routine to meet there? Yes. Are they still meeting today in this site on this site? And the answer is no. So yeah, so it relates to something that is about the past and not just today. Did they do it just once? Yeah, they didn't do it once. It was a regular activity. I did double check my answers, but I didn't notice I had made a mistake. That's the did that we want to check. And it's what questions would you ask here? What is the purpose of did in this sentence? You want to ask from them, yes. Yes, have you revised your work carefully? No. But you can also ask, yes, did you double check? No. You can also ask, am I asking a question? Why am I using did? Am I asking a question? Obviously, it's not. So this is to reinforce an idea, to emphasize feeling, and to make the sentence stronger. So it does convey some annoyance, it does convey or surprise, and is a much stronger sentence than without did. Go just one more. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Yes, it can be, is it expressing a feeling of happiness or feeling of yeah, sadness? If I say I'm looking forward to holidays, do I want to go on holiday? I'm happy to be. Yeah, so I can't wait to giving synonyms. So CCQs are a very powerful way to check that they're learning rather than asking them, did you understand the word frantic? That probably might be shy about it. Some benefits. It's a tool that's always available. And with nomination, we can target certain students. If we see that they're unsure, we can ask them. We can also use nomination to build that report to give more individualized feedback, personal feedback. There are some challenges as well. If you're a new teacher, you may need to plan some of these CCQs. I'm sure that if you've, when you've done your teacher training course, you were probably asked to write those in your lesson plans to show that you are going to be ready with CCQs. But as you gain more experience, then they should yeah, come to mind as you're teaching and always be ready. And it's an endless tool, really, being able to use that on the spot, just always available. Okay, so another way of checking progress and learning in the classroom is using exit tickets. Someone called the exit cards earlier. I believe they're referring to the same. So you can ask them one new thing they've learned. What is something that you learned during this lesson? One question that you still have, you still unsure about anything, and a summary of the lesson, for example, in one or two sentences. So what's the language, how would that help you in real life to yes, to speak and to communicate better, because it's all about communication. It's what we want to enable our students to do. So I've observed some of my teachers, and I found out quite a few of them use exit ticket, and I found it quite yes, fun to observe. You can't leave until you've given these 3 points. So something you learn, one question you still have, and a summary of the lesson. You might avoid the last one if you want to keep it more like quicker, but that's also a good idea. Some benefits to just reflect on this strategy. You will definitely encourage self-reflection, because if you think students need that time to think, okay, what did I learn? Um, as I said, it might not be obvious to them, so you want to ask them the question, or not because they don't get it, but because we want to kind of encourage that, indeed, that self-reflection, and also take ownership of the learning. So knowing that if I've learned this, if I've learned how to describe people, now when I'm outside the classroom in real world, I can talk about my friends better. So being able to be aware of that. Also empowers shy students to ask questions. Very Not many students um, end the lesson saying, okay, this is still unsure, this is still unclear. Sometimes because they don't want to maybe offend the teacher, making it feel like they've not taught that point well enough. But it's okay to tell the students it's okay not to understand everything. But it's very important to clarify that. And also, it's a nice way to finish the class. So you can just finish your lessons with this routine, and just add it to what they do every day. There are some challenges. Sometimes we get to the end of the lesson, we don't have the time, so we need to make sure we have that time specifically. But the other thing is that students might not know what to say, so you might have to encourage them and try and help them to focus on what they can share. So the other point, another way of checking learning, someone has mentioned earlier, and I was really happy to see that, is using games. Games are a very powerful tool to use in the classroom. I'm sure many of you use games. I've just listed some games that are, say, my favorite, that are always available for me to use when I need to cover a class, or when I've not prepared. Yeah, last minute cover, and they're pretty much a safe space to go. So one is back to the board. I'm not sure if other teachers know it different ways. Probably this is where I've learned to call it. So it's great to revise vocabulary. Say um, first thing in the morning, if the day before we have learned vocabulary, then I would start the day with like a 10 minutes game where students split in groups, and one student per group is not allowed to see the board. And I will write a word on the board, and the rest of the team have to explain that word through examples, through synonyms, through antonyms. So it's a very engaging way to really revise with fun. Another game, as someone mentioned, that's quizzes. So through Quizlet or Kahoot, they're easily accessible, and students can finally use their phones, their favorite. They can have phones in their hands, they can use it. Some of the challenges here in our school is, for example, just keeping them away from their phones, like getting their attention. But with this tool, you can give that digital element to the lesson. Okay, spelling again, especially for vocabulary. Hangman, where they have to kind of come up with letters and find the right and be able to spell and work out the word. Bingo, yeah, in different forms, through sentences or just words. Yeah, different ways to engage them. Bingo might require some more planning, but you can also ask the students to write bingo cards. This is something that, again, for classes where you've run out of activities or you've run out of materials and you find yourself, okay, I need to cover those 15, 20 minutes, just get the students to prepare bingo cards and then create the activity with the students there. It's sort of a fun way to get them to be active participants of the lesson. And then one of my favorite for error correction, grass skirt. I'm not sure if there's an other way of calling this again. But yes, it's great for error correction. I usually put sentences which have contain mistakes, and I stick this on the walls in the classroom and then divide the class into groups of 3 or 4. And when I say go, they need to run to their piece of, to their sheet, rip off one of the sentences, go back to the table and work together as a team to correct the mistakes or mistake. Once they have their correct version, they just put their hand up and I come around and check if it's correct. They can go to the next sentence. If it's not correct, I will encourage them to review and see again what the mistake was. So again, a very engaging way, always successful when students need to stretch their legs and just to have a fun activity. And then I would go, this is very important, I would go at the end as a correction. I wouldn't focus on every single sentence because there would be a bit of a repetition. And if they were confident with that error correction, then it would be a bit redundant. So as they report to me, I would just gather a few examples of common mistakes or things that they have struggled with. So that would be my error correction at the end, my feedback. Another one very fun for error correction is the race to the board. Again, they are split in teams, and I just put a board pen in the middle of the room, show a sentence on the board which contains mistake. The teams have to quickly gather and decide on what the mistake could be. And one of them, when they're ready, runs to the middle of the room, grabs the pen and writes the correction on the board. You need to make sure that they don't crush into each other, but it's usually a fun way for them to again to stretch their legs and feel how competitive that could be and kind of stimulating for them to come up with quickly. You can really see they try to come up with quickly with the right answer. So clearly some benefits. So games can add an element of fun into the lesson, which helps with motivation and provides sense of achievement. So this is clearly very, very important, very, just key to, to keep the lesson going and to make it more relevant to them. So motivation and the fun element is always it's always useful. And generally competition motivates. On the other hand, though, there might be some challenges. Students might not see the usefulness of games. And this is where you come in. We just need to tell the students why games are great. This is not a waste of time. We're not doing this because it's easy to plan or because we just want to have we want to waste the lesson, but this is the learning is happening even through games, especially with more mature students that can challenge games, that can find it difficult to maybe engage as much as other younger students. But again, when we explain things to students, they will understand and they will be able to see why you're doing something. Yeah, competitive. Yeah, active approach if competitive. It's an advantage, absolutely. Good. So other ways to check progress in learning, peer assessment and peer teaching. This can happen over all sorts of productive tasks, for example. And it's a very powerful tool to give students ownership of their learning. So we can use this in many different areas. If you think about presentations, about writing tasks, role plays, or we can get them to write journals. So what we want is the students to observe each other during productive tasks, for example, and we want them to assess each other. What is super important, though, is that we give the students an assessment grid so that they need to know what they're looking at. What are they assessing about the other students? Is it how well they're using vocabulary? Is it how, for example, if you think about presentation, there could be no more than three areas they need to look at. Okay, so are you using the vocabulary that was the focus of the lesson? How is the body language as well for a presentation? Are you making eye contact with the student, with other students? And was the general fluency good? Okay, so maybe they can rate each other with a score, say 0 to 5, and explain what they noticed that was good and what could be improved. Very important is to encourage constructive feedback so that the students also add a note of what they liked about that specific presentation or specific role play. It's great to give feedback, corrective feedback, but constructive feedback is always very important. So if you think about the benefits, there are quite a few points that Noonan kind of presents and shares in some of his work. So peer assessment boosts learner autonomy and responsibility. It makes them owner of it makes them as teachers. Promote active learning. Okay, so they're not passive learners but active learners. It can develop critical thinking because, of course, they need to think about it. Yes, primary school children love it. They love being in charge. They love feeling like grown-ups. But in a way, also more mature students feel like, okay, I've got this task. I gotta make sure that I'm doing it well. Improve feedback, absolutely. Build communication skills, yeah, for them to come out of a shell or being able to make a judgment, and also foster a positive learning community where there's no judgment, but there is feedback. So it's very important that this message is clear. Some challenges: it requires attentive monitoring. So of course you can't let the students do it because they're gonna correct each other. And sometimes maybe with lower learners, they might not like go straight to the point or might correct something that was correct. So you will have to monitor. You have to make sure that this happens accurately. But also some culture in particular don't like being assessed by other students. They don't see them as, of course, at the same level as a teacher. Therefore, they don't understand it. So again, it's your job to explain why you're doing it, why you're asking them to assess each other. Once again, we give it a tool in the hand of the students, but then we have to be the really the mediators for that process. We have other ideas to check learning and progress and learning, and one is group feedback, for example. Asking the question, okay, is this clear? Or how do you feel about the grammar that we've just studied? Green card, I understand. Yellow, I'm not sure. Red, I need help. Or just raise of hands, even for like tasks. First question: how many of you did it right, answer right? So it gives you an idea of overall kind of progress. So yes, benefits is great for lower levels, because of course they don't need to communicate, but they just can express yes, no, or even like this with thumbs up, down, or sideways. Group feedback allows you it allows to see the whole picture of the class. If you see confident hands or not, but again, encourages ownership of learning. So they have to reflect whether they think they're okay with it or not. One of the challenges of this approach is that it's based on trust. So are the students honest about what they're saying? They're all putting that thumbs up. Are we? How do we actually make sure that they're okay with it? And it's a bit like asking, "Do you understand?" Then that means that we still have to check again. Yes, body language is clear. It can help, and absolutely can support their answers. So we have covered giving clear objectives, checking the learnings. We're not going to move to the third point, which is providing meaningful and constructive feedback. Okay, I just want to put in the on the chat. Why is feedback important? Just some ideas. What do you think? Why, we all know that feedback is important. Why is it important? Yeah, awareness. Exactly. Can motivate. How do you provide feedback? So to maybe have a think. How do you give this feedback to your students? Yeah, they know what to improve. Yeah, there are different ways of giving feedback. Do we give immediate feedback or do we give delayed feedback? So there are some cases here that I want to share with you. So during fluency activities, it seemed that it might be better not to interrupt. So maybe delayed feedback during fluency activities because we don't want to stop. Yes, exactly. Depends on the activities where that they're doing. Fluency, we don't want to interrupt that. We want to get them to speak, and then at the end, we're gonna collect our notes. When students make repeated mistakes in their language, in key language areas, of course, this needs to be immediate. It's something that we need to kind of pause for a second and check that. During control practice is when we can stop and say, actually, look at this because we're working on accuracy. We're not working on fluency. So it's okay to do immediate feedback. During group activities, maybe if they're making decisions or they're coming up with ideas, it's better to delay the feedback to later. When the mistake does not relate to the language point, then we can delay it as well. So we might, no necessarily interrupt that in that moment, especially with lower levels as they naturally make lots of mistakes. We can't correct everything. We just need to focus on the ones that are more key for the language point. If the student asks, is this correct? Of course, we need um, to tell them. We can't say, okay, I'll reply in at the end of the lesson. When the error does not impede communication, we can wait very often, especially in fluency activities. So providing meaningful and constructive feedback is very important. And there are different ways of giving feedback. I'm just going to show a list and some reference that you can look at. The Practice of English Language Teaching by Jeremy Harmer. He focuses on type of feedback, and he in particular makes like focuses on the difference between positive and corrective feedback. As we said earlier, corrective feedback is very important because it raises the awareness of the mistakes they're making so they can learn from that. However, we also need to remember how important positive feedback is for their awareness of learning, or well done, or you did really great today, or that's a really nice example. But there are on the left, there is a list of ways on how we can really give feedback. We can ask them, we can elicit from them. So rather than correcting them ourselves, make them they rephrase themselves using a rubric. So the things that we're looking at, reformulate their sentence. So reformulate what they've just asking for kind of feedback and asking them to re-say the sentence in a yes, in a more accurate way, we can echo their answer. So yesterday I go to the shop. Yesterday you went. Yeah, so they should come up with their own solution. The fourth point is encouraging self-assessment. So again, it's all part of self-reflection, and it all comes together when the students are aware of their learning. So just using a 5-minute reflection at the end of the lesson, or a journal, like a regular activity on saying, okay, what did you learn today? What was challenging? What did you find difficult? Or even just something as simple as writing can-do statements. The benefits, again, they promote ownership of learning. So the students are aware. We keep record. They can keep record of this for each lesson. And it also makes them aware of their challenges. Some challenges in using this is trying to keep it regular and finding a time at the end of the lesson. But let's always try and keep this 5 minutes reflection, whether it's through exit tickets or other ways, to really get them to reflect. Finally, the fifth point is praising success. So with sharing positive feedback, something they've done well. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Padlet, but it's a great way to kind of show students' work, for example, just pieces of writing or sentences, or ideas. That's when students take pride in what they do, and they're happy to share with the other students. Some of the benefits are that they motivate, build confidence, but also encourage, again, peer learning and collaboration, because they see how much the others are learning, and helps with class bonding. Some of the challenges could be, for example, to showcase everyone's work can be challenging because, of course, we know that there are always stronger students and less strong students. We want everyone to be proud of their work, even if they are struggling a bit more. So always make sure that there is a share from everyone to reflect on that and to present to other students. Under which feedback can I group constructive assignment, classwork, or homework? I guess both. We can give feedback on classwork or homework. That's quite important also to kind of give feedback on what they have done independently, and also yes, basically reward them for making the effort outside the classroom. Okay, so just going to the end of the webinar, I would like you from today to try a strategy you're less familiar with. So it might not be a new strategy, but maybe something that you use less. So let's say if you don't do much post-lesson reflection, maybe you might want to think about implementing that. Or do you use games? Maybe try and use new games. Try and find new games for your class if you already use many. Or feedback. Have you ever reflected whether you should be giving immediate feedback rather than delayed feedback? Or exit ticket? Have you ever used them? But also, similarly, observing a colleague can be really, really stimulating, can be a great way to still learn. Every time I observe one of my teachers, I always have a lot to learn from them in the way they lead the lesson, but also in classroom management or ways to present the language. So don't forget the value of peer observation. So yes, just as a takeaway, remember to set clear learning objectives. Remember to check progress and learning throughout the lesson with all those different strategies that we have looked at. Provide meaningful and constructive feedback, and think maybe, do I need to do this now or can I do this later? showcase achievement. Don't forget to tell them how well they're doing. And use self-assessment and peer assessment, dedicating those for self-assessment that time at the end of your lesson. All this to make learning really visible to students so that they they are more aware, they're more conscious of what they've been doing and why they've done it. So yeah, um, we probably have some time, maybe 3 minutes for questions. Um, if you have any questions or anything that I've missed in the chat, feel free to represent it or to retype it. I'm just going through the previous messages. Yes, peer assessment is it's such a powerful tool. It's a little bit like observing another teacher. You are also great. I mean, the post peer observation is great because you can relate to each other and pick things um, pick things up. Is competition good for students with special needs? That's a good question. So, of course, we need to be very careful about it. Maybe we can explain to the student that it's okay not to it's okay to feel less confident, but I think it's very important to group those students with someone who is quite supportive, something they get on well with in the classroom, so that they feel again they feel they got someone to help them, someone that um, they can find support with. But yes, I think that's an absolute fair question. And also, your students. Some students with special needs that I've taught, they get very excited about competition. Some get more nervous. I think generally make sure that they're aware that it's also just a game, and that it's okay to get things wrong. Um, but yes, I didn't watch the previous webinars, but I want ooh, the certificate out. I'm not sure I can answer that question. I would recommend maybe contacting the organizers of the webinars. They can be of more help. I'm really sorry, but I'm not sure how that technically works. But yeah, thank you so much for. Oh, we started at there will be 5 CET. So yeah, sorry, um, the webinar is over. But thank you so much for attending. It was great having you here. I hope you have some takeaways from today's webinar. And yeah, all the best with your teaching and with your students. Thank you.